and welcome back to PrepTalk podcast. My name is Vartika Bhandari and we are back with another episode on SAT exams. This particular podcast focuses on SAT reading section. We are going to learn about the tips to handle the section and what to expect from the segment. To take this podcast further and answer the questions we have with us for the first time, Abhishek sir, Senior English Faculty at Udella. Hello Abhishek sir, how are you?
Good, thank you. Nice to be here.
Welcome to the podcast. So let's begin with the first question.
Sure.
What skills does SAT reading section test in a student?
I'll say primarily ability to summarize,
Mm-hmm.
paraphrase, and use a bit of reasoning skills.
Mm-hmm.
That's primarily what gets tested.
So moving on to our next question, what changes will we see in the SAT reading section in the new digital SAT format as far as the content is concerned?
I'll talk about the content, but first of all, very good news is that the timing is going to be slashed drastically.
Okay.
As of now, just the English section is 100 minutes long,
Okay.
while the overall test duration in the new format will be nearly 2 hours.
Mhm.
So that's a huge change, and I think that should be a welcome change from the point of view of several students, because fatigue is one factor that actually affects performance. Given that as of now the test runs into something like 3.25 of hours, including the break time.
Mhm.
So bringing it down to 2 hours will be very helpful. Another important thing is that this format that comes into force from March of 2023 will see 2 sections still, but each section will include both reading as well as writing and language questions. So that is going to be one change. Number of questions is going to be about 27, while the time allowed will be 32 minutes.
Okay.
So compare it to the current format wherein we have 52 questions for reading to be answered within 65 minutes and 44 questions of writing and language to be answered within 35 minutes. So that changes drastically.
Right. So you said 27 questions will be seen in the new SAT digital format.
Right.
So that is
Which
27
includes
questions
both
each.
reading, each section will have 27 questions. Each section of English
Right.
will have 27 questions to be answered within 32 minutes. That's our understanding as of now. And each of the section will include both reading as well as writing and language questions. The length of the passages is going to be once again reduced. As of now, we have passages running into 650 to 750 words, but that is going to be somewhere around less than 100 words. That is going to be the length of the passages in the new format.
Okay.
So that should be a good news to a lot of students who
Right.
don't exactly enjoy the current version.
Right. So it is actually a easier version of the current SAT.
I'll say it's going to be a watered down version because one of the issues was definitely fatigue reading all
Right.
those words, such long passages. So that's going to be
Also, the fact that reading section is the most lengthiest section in the entire paper, so the energy
Right.
it does not sustain for a longer time.
right. It's the very first section, and it puts a lot of students to sleep.
Right.
So it's according to me, it's a good news for the students. Change that is set to take place.
So going on to our next question, how can students improve their reading?
A lot of students who come to Tetela, in my experience, are already good at reading because they do read books. For those who don't actually do this, we have on our portal there is a reading resource section which can be used, wherein we keep populating articles from different topics. Some diversity, some variety in your reading is advised, and that is one of the prime motivations behind creating this particular resource, that we should give exposure to students on different types of topics, be it science, be it health, be it business, economics. So all those articles dealing with all these different areas, different fields are there, and we definitely advise all students to go over those articles.
Right. So a diverse reading is advised.
Yes.
Also, to all the readers, the reading section has articles from the New York Times, so you will not have a problem with understanding the concept and improving your reading. You can find the link of the reading section down below in the description. So, moving to our next question. So, keeping in mind the current format and the format that we'll be seeing in the digital suite. So, is skimming and scanning, which is known to the reading community like as a tool, will it be helpful for students now or like later on?
Currently, it is very much helpful, but as I said, mentioned earlier, that the delivery passage is going to be reduced by huge margin. So I don't think it will be a crucial skill uh, once this format is comes into play.
Right. So moving on to our next question, that time management is a problem with students. So what do you suggest that they optimally use their time and complete the section and rightfully and have the energy to attempt the later questions and sections?
Time management is an issue with a lot of students in the reading section, not so much on writing and language section, though in writing and language section also I see some students struggle, but the proportion of such students is low. More students struggle on the reading section, and that is because they don't use effectively the strategy of or the techniques of skimming and scanning, which we take pains to ensure that students are well versed with these techniques. So our basic classes try to reinforce these ideas, and that is how we carry our that is how we handle the course over here. So once we are through with the student, he should have a better understanding of how to skim a passage to begin with, wherein he just needs to gain some overview. We should not get into the details. That is the basic idea behind skimming. So we try to give enough practice on this particular habit, and once this habit is developed, time management becomes. Then it's not much of a concern managing the time. Right.
So as we know that sectionals are very much important into understanding each section of the exam individually, and to understand what you are, where you are in the particular section, where you lie, what is your time management and how you are attempting the question, what is your score, individual section score. So how many tests does it take for a student, sectional test does it take for a student to understand the testing rhythm and also manage the time?
See, we have this full length test cycle where we provide 10 to 12 tests.
Right.
But before that, as you mentioned, we try to put students through sectional tests.
Yes.
So that they are much more comfortable with time management, and they are well versed with the strategies and techniques that we use over here. The number of sectional varies from, once again, 5 to 6. And see, some students might take more sectionals, but normally we take students through 5 to 6 sectional tests, which gives them enough grounding, which is followed up with more workshops.
Right.
So while the full length test cycle is going on, in the interim, we also provide workshops wherein once again we try to review the same strategies and techniques of skimming and scanning and reinforcing the good habits.
Sure. So moving on to our next question, how would you rate the difficulty level of the section as compared to the rest in the SAT exam?
Reading section, a lot of students struggle with reading section. As I said, because the very first section, early morning, 8:30 is the time when SAT begins. A lot of young students are not in the habit of getting up early.
Sure.
And the passages can be so boring that it puts them to sleep. So the first section can be difficult on this account. However, once students start appreciating better, once we take them through the basic idea, basic approach towards reading section, it becomes very manageable.
Mhm.
However, if a student doesn't practice enough, this section is going to be challenging.
Mhm.
At the same time, if one has practiced sufficiently
Mhm.
and has grasped the basic idea that you're not required to understand all the details in a given passage. Some
Mhm.
students make it a matter of knowledge.
Mhm.
They don't need to understand the history, they don't need to understand philosophy, they don't need to
Mhm.
understand the science. I mean the technical aspects of science. You
Mhm.
need to understand the process of science, obviously.
Yeah.
That is more of a common sense rather than a
Mhm.
matter of knowledge.
Mhm.
So, however, students have these wrong notions that they need to grasp the individual subject matter,
Mhm.
which can distract them.
Right. Cool. So, to move into our next question, is it possible to attain a perfect score in SAT reading section?
Difficult but possible.
Of course.
Yeah, nothing is impossible, but yeah, I mean, that will be a rare thing,
Mhm.
I must say.
Okay. So, what tips should the students keep in mind while attempting this section?
So, as I said, students have to understand that that knowledge is not being tested.
Mhm.
The reading skill primarily is your ability to uh, gain an overview,
Mhm.
and you can do that better if you are able to paraphrase
Mhm.
situations, summarize situations,
Mhm.
and you have to be very clear about the subject of the question, identify the relevant portion
Mhm.
in accordance with the subject of the question,
Mhm.
and use textual support to arrive at the correct answer.
Mhm.
While arriving at the correct answer, one should also remember this thing, and this is one area wherein I see a lot of students faltering.
Mhm.
Don't expect a perfect answer.
Okay.
A lot of students go in expecting a perfect answer, and that is why they actually get confused between the answer choices.
Mhm.
SAT test writers are pretty smart.
Mhm.
They have perfected this technique of camouflaging the correct answer and luring uh, with some words picked from the text,
Mhm.
and that is how they create wrong answer options. So one has to understand these things that it's not about just matching some words here or there.
Mhm.
Instead, it is about grasping the overall idea, the meaning of a particular portion, and using the skills of paraphrasing and recognizing appropriate expression one has to arrive at the correct answer.
All right. So, this was the last question to you. Thank you, Abhishek sir, for being a part of today's podcast.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Absolutely. So, to all the listeners, we hope today's episode was helpful for you. All the relevant links you can find in the description box down below. If you like this segment, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe it further. Stay tuned to our next episode and have a good day. Goodbye.